Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Anthony, and welcome back to Let Me Be Frank. So, this is episode 24. And I know in previous episodes I said that this would be the last episode of the season, but I decided to do one more bonus episode. Surprise. It's going to be just certain like favorite memories with some of my friends, kind of like a fun, lighthearted episode. But enough of that. We're just going to jump right into this episode. I have another guest this week. Very excited. I was a big fan of him on seasons 14 and 17 of Hell's Kitchen. Give it up for Nicholas Peters Bond. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. And thank you for coming on the show.
Of course.
So tell us, for people who might not be familiar,
hmm
tell us a little bit about who you are. The way I like to word that is if you were a novel, what would the back of your book say?
It would say something like buckle up because I feel like my life over the past 5 years has been kind of crazy. I grew up in Stoneham, Massachusetts. And then I slowly got into like the food world and I kind of immersed myself in that world. So started being a line cook at like 15, 16. And that was where I first got like my first job cooking in an actual restaurant. And then from there, I've cooked in restaurants for like every job I've had. And then I went to culinary school. I went to Southern New Hampshire University for culinary. And I stayed on a couple more years to get my bachelor's. And then after that, I just immediately started working in restaurants. And that's kind of from there, I kind of worked up to become a sous chef and then executive chef. And then, I was on Hell's Kitchen season 14 and 17, like Frank said. So that was kind of where like everything started changing. It was crazy because I was definitely more of a homebody, and I definitely was not an introvert by any means. I wouldn't say that, but I definitely feel like me flying across country and like auditioning for like a national TV show was something I wouldn't have done prior. So it definitely changed my life and kind of changed my confidence level and kind of just in general kind of just changed me, I think, for the better. So yeah, it's definitely been a wild ride the past 5 years.
Wow, yeah. Do you happen to remember how many people showed up to try out for that show?
Yeah, so season 14, it's been a while now. It was
Yeah.
like very different. I look very young on that. That was probably almost 7 years ago now.
Wow.
So I think it was 25 when I was physically on the show. And I think I was like 24 when I auditioned. So someone reached out to me on Facebook, actually. It was through like, I have like my personal Facebook and then like my professional Facebook. And at the time, someone had messaged me from like, said they were from a casting company. And I thought it was kind of sketchy to like slide into my DMs and be like, oh, come meet me at this restaurant for an open casting call. And I was like, I don't know. But they called me, the company, and they were really cool. And I ended up going, obviously. And it was wild. I never had like personally gone out and sought it out. So when I went to this restaurant, it was the open casting call. There was maybe like 40 to 50 people there, chefs trying
Okay.
out. So when I got called, I went up in front of, there was only two people there. And it was probably maybe 30 seconds and that was it. And you either got a call back or you didn't. And so I got a call back. And then my second interview was inside of a hotel room, which was kind of sketchy. It was a hotel room, like a suite. And then they did some on-camera stuff with me. And then they sent that to the producers. They came back and said, we're going to fly him out, as well as there was a bunch of us that got flown out to LA. And that's where we had like the final round of interviews. Yeah. So that was interesting because it was basically, you were sitting in front of like 5 or 6 producers of the show and you had to like be interviewed. So it was kind of nerve wracking, but it was a cool experience.
I bet. So yeah, you didn't have to do like any cooking to audition. Like it was all just like, yeah, personality and getting to know you.
Which I think is that's like, there's a bunch of like questions that people ask, but one of the main things that people don't understand is that I didn't have to cook anything to get on the show. So, which is wild to me. But then again, once you see the show back, there's some pretty interesting characters on there. So I think it's more of like I would say it's like 50% cooking, 50% reality TV.
Gotcha.
So I think they called my references and stuff, and like on my resume, they had us like provide a resume, and they called all my past jobs to make sure I could actually cook. But yeah, there was no cooking involved
Were
to
you
get on.
nervous about not being picked? Like, did you think you were going to be picked? I know some people kind of get cocky with that. They're like, yeah, I'd be on TV.
I don't honestly. I was so not in that like at least the first time in that mindset of like I'm going to audition and I'm going to go on a TV show. That just wasn't something that I thought I could see myself pushing myself to do. So
Yeah.
I feel like I had nothing to lose kind of, you know what I mean? Like I didn't really feel nervous about, oh my God, I want to get on. I thought it would be really cool, but I was kind of like, if I don't, I don't. But it obviously ended up working out. And I would say I was more nervous, like packing up my life. Like it was just me flying cross country. And the first time I was on, it was for 5 weeks. So they took my cell phone at the airport. So
Oh,
they
I'd
take your
hate
cell
that.
phone. Yeah, it's wild. They're like, no cell phone. And then, yes, I couldn't talk to anybody or for 5 weeks. So that was kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't done reality TV myself, but I do hear about like the horror stories of you can't really like use your cell phone, watch
Yeah.
TV, read books even like
Mhm.
so I'm assuming yeah, it was probably just as strict and you got to just deal with talking to crazy people.
Basically. Yeah. I mean, I would say almost everyone I got along with on both seasons. Of course, they only show like the dramatic parts of it,
Yeah.
I did have a lot of fun filming both times. But yeah, no cell phone, no TV, no radio. I think they want to keep you like immersed with each other and like in the experience. So it kind of feels like real life almost when it really isn't. But yeah, we're constantly with each other, working and then also living together. So that was interesting too.
Well, one thing I just remembered too at that show, because there was a point where, so before I had like found you on the internet, I know that
Mhm.
sounds creepy and I just like messaged you out of nowhere too,
Yeah.
but before that I had binged like almost every single season. I forgot I had only seen seasons 1 and 2 before I
Mhm.
really like binged this and watched it and stuff. And one thing I just remembered is at least the way on TV, they made it look like you guys just never stopped moving. Like you guys were
Mhm.
either doing a challenge or going to the, to cook at night or
Yeah.
like, so was it really that fast paced or was that just like the editing?
It was that fast paced. I would
Okay.
say the second time it was even more so because we were only there for 3 weeks. So we had to
Oh,
cram in
wow.
all those episodes that people see into 3 week time. So every single day during the All Star season, which is season 17, we filmed every single day. So a lot of times it was like we wake up, usually we would wake up around like 7 or 8 in the morning. We had to like be ready to go by 8. And then we would go start our days. We would go leave our dorms, which people don't realize are literally like if this is Hell's Kitchen, the dorms are up here. So we're literally
Oh,
walking upstairs after work to live together. So
oh wow.
we definitely were sick of each other by the end, but yeah, it was crazy. We were nonstop. So it was like a challenge in the morning. Then we like went on like a reward or a punishment, depending on if your team won that challenge. And then that night we would know pretty quickly if we had dinner service or not. So sometimes we would have all that stuff in one day. And then when we would go back to the dorms after, they would do like confessionals or interviews or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so we didn't go to bed until like one or two, depending on the time. But yeah, it was nonstop. It was crazy.
And speaking of the castmates, we can get to that a little bit too. But with the confessionals and stuff, do
Mhm.
you feel like they on TV that they really showed you who you were for the most part, or did they
Mhm.
kind of like make you look a certain way that was different?
I think I was the only like openly gay male cast member on
Yeah.
the All Star season, and then there was another gay cast member on season 14. Her name was T, and her and I connected
Oh
and
yeah,
got
I
really well.
loved her.
Me too. Yeah, she was just really cool, really down to earth. And I will say the majority of the people were pretty cool and down to earth. T was really cool, but other than like being like the token gay guy on the season, it really, especially I feel like the All Star season, it was really more focused on like people's talent and like getting to know the person and kind of like yeah, there was drama, but season 14 was definitely more like I feel like they had like casting types, but they didn't. I mean, everyone asked me like how real stuff was, or like where like did you answer your own questions, and like nothing was scripted. Like
Yeah.
people are just we were all just crazy. We all just were thrown into a house to live together and talk about it. And some people were better at confessionals than others. So like if you had to answer the producer's questions, and like I was always like willing to answer them and talk about stuff. So I think that's why
Mhm.
I don't know, I got more airtime than some people. I don't know,
Was
but
it? Yeah, you definitely. There were a lot of confessionals. There'd be like some. Oh my god, such funny like little sassy moments. They would kind
yeah,
of clip it.
they definitely love to like feed. And like oh like what if you said this? And I'm like okay, I'm not saying that. Like they were fine with that, but they definitely like want to like pull stuff out of you.
Oh,
It's been like a
definitely.
long day, and then they're asking you questions, and you're like, I don't even remember what happened 5 minutes ago, let alone this morning. But we had to like recap everything.
Yeah, so one person that you became really close to
Mhm.
on the show was Michelle.
Yes.
What is your relationship with her today?
So Michelle, after she won All Stars,
Oh,
well,
I
I
forgot
guess
to mention that. Yeah, she won season
yeah. Sorry,
17.
it was a spoiler. She won.
No.
It's aired 2 times by now. I'm like, I figured people know. Well, let's backtrack to season 14. We just kind of had like an instant connection, and I remember prior to the very beginning of filming the first episode, we were kind of all lined up in a hallway, and we had to be quiet. We were like, they like have names for it. We had to be really quiet, and not talk to each other, because they wanted the reactions to be genuine when we all first meet. So she was standing next to me, and I kind of looked at her and was like, okay, she seems cool. Like I can kind of like, I feel like I could like cling onto her and kind of talk to her when we get on to like the first scene of the show. And so after that, I just felt kind of comfortable because we kind of just clicked, and we're just normal people, and just like we're casual and just like talked about everything. And so we got close on that show. And then once All Stars came, I didn't know that she was going to be on it for sure. Like you kind of know, like, okay, they're going to ask people to come back. I wonder if who's going to come back from season 14.
Yeah.
And then our friendship just grew when we kept in contact, and we did a bunch of lives on Instagram together. She recently actually left Hell's Kitchen, the restaurant in Vegas, and moved back to Texas, where she originally was from.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but so we've kept in contact, and we text and Zoom and FaceTime and stuff like that still.
Oh,
She's
cool.
doing really well.
Yeah, thinking about those shows, I know, and thinking back when I would watch them, I probably 14 and 17. I know on 17 especially where you would see certain people up for the chopping block and you'd be
Mhm.
like, "Oh good, they're going home." And then he'd be like,
Mhm.
"Back in line." I'm like, "Fuck, like go
Every
away."
time.
Like
True.
there's certain people. Speaking of certain people that I was like, "Oh my God, I just want off." You
Mhm.
had certain tensions with someone named Josh.
Yes.
So yeah, what was that whole, because it kind of looked like there was a friendship at the beginning and then it like turned really sour for certain reasons. And yeah, like what was all that about? Was any of that staged? Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
So they didn't really, I would say, especially on season 14, they don't show a lot of like the fun stuff we did. Like, or I
Mm,
guess it was really stupid looking back on it now, but like we would just like have so much fun in the dorms. Maybe we were having too much fun. I don't know. But him and I were like close in the house. I would even say more than Michelle entering season 14. And then when it came time to start voting people out, I had to basically nominate him because I thought he had done the worst as well as everyone else. So we kind of all nominated him. He was pissed, and that's kind of when I saw a switch in him. He was very like high strung, but he was chill and cool, and we talked a lot, and we got along really well until we had to start voting each other off, and that's what the fight they showed on season 14 is basically him lashing out because he thought that I was like he called me a Susie homemaker, and
yeah.
he said a bunch of stuff, and it was kind of just like we got into a big fight, and he ended up going home, I think, that episode. But none of that was staged. It just was kind of like random how he kind of like flipped a switch. And then we left on a bad note, basically, from season 14. So then season 17 came around, and I was like, when I saw him walk in the door, I knew. I was like, of course he's going to be here. There's no way they wouldn't. But once we got past like the initial, like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like, we left on bad terms. We actually became like friendly again. But I didn't think, I knew he wasn't going to really last on the show the second time. It just seemed like he had a different agenda, and his career path was kind of like leading towards like acting and stuff, which I knew
Mm,
he really likes to do. So I think we're on okay terms now, but I think,
okay.
yeah, it was like great, and then until it wasn't, basically.
Mm. I mean, yeah, I think for me, when I would see that dynamic on TV, it reminded me a lot of an old guy friend I used to be friends with.
Mhm.
So it kind of like put us into your roles on
Yeah,
TV. So I think it just really triggered that memory in my mind. Like, oh, so I think that's why I definitely didn't love Josh. I don't personally know him to really
right,
judge him
right.
at the end of the day, but there would, oh my God, I keep it very honest on this show. I just honestly felt like they would keep him longer than they really like should have.
Yeah, I think they did that with a couple people. It was like
I'd be like, come
I
on.
felt that way about Elise on the All Star.
I was weird. There would be moments I really didn't like her, but then I
Mhm.
also felt like they needed that bitchy character in a way, and I
She
felt like she was
definitely,
really
yeah,
good at that.
she definitely spiced things up, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, do I think she's talented? Yes, I think she's a talented chef. Do I think that everything else clouded that? 100%. I think that everything else that she brought to the table, other than her talent, which she's a talented chef, was all the drama and all the fights, and it really just overshadowed everything else. So I think, and then I started thinking about it when we were filming. I was like, does Chef Ramsay really want this person as his head chef? There's no fucking way. There's no way. So I kind of knew. I was like, her time was up. Like I thought episode one for sure she would have left, but they dropped that bombshell of like eliminating. Oh, what's his name? I'm horrible. They eliminated another contestant.
Oh, yes. I from season 5, I think. I can't remember his
Yes, I'm
name.
blanking, and he's also doing really well. He had some health concerns, and so that's why they eliminated him. But I'm drawing a blank. But yeah, that was wild. That was like a surprise one, and I thought Elise would have definitely went home, but to be so lucky, I guess.
She made it real. I felt like I think she made it pretty far, right? Didn't she get like top 6 or something?
I think so. She didn't make it to Black Jackets on the All
No.
Star season. It was like came down between her and Jennifer. I think it came down to, but like to get the Black Jacket, and then Robin ended up getting it. So she was the last one to come in. I remember.
Yeah. I do remember that. Anyway, yeah. So, what was one thing I definitely am curious about is I've always been a fan of Gordon Ramsay and
Mhm.
his whole like he just has such a switch of seeming like this asshole and then this really nice person.
Right.
What was Gordon Ramsay really like?
I would say season 14, I was scared shitless of him. I was definitely intimidated. He's a little bit taller than me. I'm about 6 foot, and I think he's a little bit taller than me.
Okay.
So he's a big guy. He's like really in shape too. And of course, seeing clips and like knowing about him before I went on the show, I was intimidated. But All Star season, he was awesome. Like I think he after like 17 seasons of the same shit and the same like like the same character, I'm sure it kind of gets old for him too. So he seemed to be a lot more like mentor like on the All Star season. Do I think he was like warm and fuzzy? No, but he definitely seemed to show a little bit more of an interest in us as like chefs versus TV and screaming at us and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Um, I was lucky that I didn't get screamed at too much, so I kind of lucked out because some people got it worse than me. But
Yeah.
I think he's not as bad as they portray him to be, especially now, like the more current seasons. But he's definitely still intimidating for sure.
Yeah, no, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, oh God, I could tell you stories about I'm not a good cook whatsoever. So I would be on that show like the worst America's Worst Cooks or whatever I think it's
Yeah.
called. Like I would so be on there. I could tell a quick story of this one time I tried making mac and cheese
Mhm.
and I forgot water
Oh my God. Was it from a scratch or from a box?
from a
Oh
box.
Jesus. Yeah, you need to try out for that show.
And I almost, yeah, caught the whole house on fire. I lived alone too, so people wouldn't have discovered me for
They wouldn't have
weeks.
found you.
No, because a shitty neighborhood too, so it's not like anyone's knocking.
So sad.
But yeah, so oh my God. I heard this awful rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, but I did a little scrolling online about
Mhm.
Hell's Kitchen not being a real restaurant. Is that true?
Um, so the Hell's Kitchen restaurant in Vegas is real.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what you meant, but on the show, it's not real, I guess. So basically, like the public, you couldn't go in off the street and be like, "Hi, I want a table for two."
Okay, they made it kind of look that way.
Yeah, they have it's all reservation slash they have people like a waiting list to be able to go on the show. Because so when you
Gotcha.
dine there, you're not guaranteed you get to eat because as you've seen, everyone gets kicked out left to right every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So I know that they get free wine, I believe, like wine and beer or drinks are free. I think it's more of like a waiting list to be on the show and have that experience. So when they eat, they are eating, but it's not necessarily like a real functioning restaurant. I think that's why they created Hell's Kitchen in Vegas now, because it's basically a mirror image of kind of like what we were doing. There's like the red side and the blue side, and then the dining
Yeah.
room. So that's real. But yeah, we cooked and everything for people that were eating, but they weren't like it wasn't like the general public.
Okay. Yeah, they
Or like, yeah,
definitely, I felt like they made it look that way. But then I was
yeah,
seeing online that it was more of like a studio set in a way, and you guys were like
yeah.
cooking in a, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the outside of the restaurant looks real. Like if you were to walk up, you'd be like, this is crazy. And the building's real, but the building, I forget the first time it was in a studio, Culver City, I think it is. It's like a part of LA.
Okay.
And then the second time for All Stars, it was basically a giant like old Home Depot that they had like turned into a studio.
That's
So
awesome.
we literally lived and cooked like we like were inside of like a giant warehouse, essentially, is what it was. So they created a restaurant inside the warehouse, and then also they created dorms inside the warehouse. But like there was ceilings, but I don't know if that makes sense. It was like a set, but real. I don't know.
No, that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Like half and half. It's like it's real, that's actually happening, but you're in a warehouse at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if that ruins it for you, but I hope not. But
No, I mean, I finished it anyway, so
yeah,
it's all said and done. I didn't write this question down,
yeah.
but you, if I remember correctly, you were on the team with a good amount of winning challenges.
Hmm.
Do you remember which of those wins, like how you'd go on trips or you'd go do
Yeah.
fun things? Do you remember what was one of your favorite things that you did?
Yes. Both times that so season 14 and in the All-Star season, Michelle slash me myself had won the Taste It Now Make It challenge. So that challenge is basically when we had to taste a dish that Gordon Ramsay made, and then we had to replicate it and get all the ingredients correct just by taste. So we just had to taste it and then make the dish. So we had to like guess what like the purees were, the sauces were, like what the ingredients were. So the first time Michelle and I think it was more like the smaller group things was more fun for me because it was all of us going out. It was just like, it was a shit show and like trying to like corral everyone. And it was just like, it was nice to like be myself and like just chill with Michelle and like hang out. And I think I would have just as much fun with any other contestant alone. It just was like nice to be just her and I. It was like refreshing to just like take a break and go have fun basically, even though it was on camera. But like the helicopter ride was really cool. I'd never been in a helicopter before. I hate planes, and I thought I was going to hate it, but I ended up loving it. Yeah, so I think both times that I like had like an alone time date with Michelle was really fun because we got to just like chill and talk and just be by ourselves.
Awesome. How long were those like rewards? Like, was it just a couple hours? Was it a day?
It depends. So we used to say service cider. So basically, if we were eating dinner or lunch on our reward, would either give us real champagne or they would give us sparkling cider. So if we
Okay.
got sparkling cider, we knew that it would be a short reward and we'd have dinner service that night.
Oh man.
Because you can't be like half the bag going to like going to hang out with Gordon Ramsay and cook for him. So there were some of them that were longer that were like so much fun. The longer ones are always fun, obviously, because we could like hang out and like not have to worry about like the impending doom of that night and like what would happen.
Yeah.
So it was both. There was some days that they were long and some that was really short.
Which season did you like more, 14 or 17, and why?
I've been pretty vocal about liking season 17 way more. I think it was tons of reasons. One is that I just had a lot more experience in season 14. I mean, I graduated, I was 21 when I got my first, 21 or 22 when I got my first sous chef job. And then I was on the show by 24. So I didn't have like I had a lot of experience, but compared to now, it seems like nothing. So I definitely think I wasn't as experienced, obviously, as I was on All Stars. And I had just way more fun on All Stars. Besides like winning a lot of challenges and rewards and stuff like that, that was obviously fun. I just felt more confident going into the show, being even like the production kind of behind the scenes stuff that we had to do. And like, I just was overall generally more calm, or at least I tried to be, which then helped me do better this time around. And also just be less anxious and less worried about every little thing going on around me because you can't control it. So I definitely think I had more fun on season 17. I think that reflects on like how I came across and my food, and I was less anxious really.
Yeah. And I mean, that makes sense too. Because, yeah, you already had one round of it. And now you're
Right.
like kind of knowing, yeah, more what to expect. Well, I guess all of you did at the
Yeah.
end of the day. But yeah, I mean, personally, I feel like, because what, you got third place, I think.
Mhm.
on that one. Yeah, I mean, you totally got robbed for the finale. Like,
I agree.
I
I normally
felt,
would never have said like, oh, I think I should have won because I'm not like that. But um, the All Star season, yes, I think like even watching the show back the first time when because we don't see anything until it airs. So like
yeah,
I don't see the red team, like all their drama and all that stuff going on because we're on the other side of the kitchen. So we can't really see that. So after watching the whole experience, it seemed to me that like the show is leading up to like Michelle and I being in the finale.
yeah,
And that's just kind of how it seemed. Because I remember I've said this a couple times on a live Instagram live with Michelle is that there's one episode, I don't know if you remember this. It was we basically had to the whole team started in the kitchen and then one by one, each person from each team had to come out of the kitchen and just observe and like cheer their
yes,
teammates on.
yep,
And so there was this weird like pivotal moment where it was like just Michelle and just me and everyone else was like watching slash like telling us what to do and helping us. And it was kind of like to me, it was like foreshadowing of like the finale.
mm,
And I don't know if that was intentional on their part or what happened, but I was like, okay, like I could see this me going all the way. And then when it came down to like the final three, I for sure, especially with like doing our menus so I was paired with Chef Christina, who was our sous chef on the red side that on our all-star season. We actually got a chance to do our own food. So we got to like create menus and really show off what we do and who we are as a chef. Whereas the majority of the season, it was us cooking someone else's food, which was fine, but it doesn't show us and like our creativity or like our culinary point of view. So I was excited to be able to create my own menu and work with her. And I for sure was like, I thought that I was going to be the finale. Whether I would win, I don't know. People ask me that, do you think you should have won? I definitely think I should have been in the finale. Do I think that I had the skill set to win? Yes. Do I think that it would make sense? It made sense for Michelle to win? Yes. You know, Michelle's a couple of years younger than me, no ties to anything really. Her family, at the time was living in New York. So she was already like, she could be easily transported somewhere and just start a career and start a whole life up. Whereas I already had like, I'm so close to my family. At the time I was engaged to my husband. And so we're now married with a child. So everything ended up working out. But at the time, I couldn't see myself moving to Vegas and leaving my family and friends behind because I had
mm.
such deep root. I was just deep rooted in Massachusetts in this area that I don't think I would have moved to Vegas, to be honest. That lifestyle is just wild.
Oh,
I
I
wouldn't
bet.
survive in Vegas.
Well, you never know. I mean, yeah. I mean, I personally haven't been there, so yeah, I wouldn't really know personally.
Yeah.
But I grew up in Massachusetts. I
Mhm.
still live in Massachusetts too. So I think that's why I think that was the main reason I ended up adding you because I didn't realize you lived in Massachusetts. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's cool, like small world
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah. I live in Danvers now and I grew up in Stoneham, like I said. So I still kind of stayed in like the North Shore, just north of Boston area.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
No, I'm Western Mass,
Okay.
but I can't wait I definitely want to move.
Mhm. You want to
But
move like the West Coast or stay on the East Coast?
probably the East Coast, it
Mhm.
depends.
Yeah.
Because I mean, something like this show is portable. Like it's not like I need
Right.
to be in a certain state. Whereas I also want to be a writer though, and
Yeah.
that might depend. Like,
Yeah.
because I'm working on a book, that might depend, yeah, if that's
That's
gonna be New York or California or whatever.
congratulations. That's really exciting.
Thanks. So there was another, I don't know if we can even talk about this, but there
Okay.
was some other rumor I saw online. Maybe we could hypothesize about
Okay.
it because
Okay.
I don't know what contracts are like if they just like sue you out of nowhere.
Well, I'm out of my contract for Hell's Kitchen.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So you're good.
Okay, cool. So, but I had seen, I don't remember what season. Oh, actually, it might have been season 12. It was the one that Scott guy won,
Okay.
I think. I think it was before your first one,
Yes,
maybe.
I think I watched that before. I think.
I I heard rumors
Mhm.
that they almost kind of plan the final two. I don't know if you think that's true or not, or if we could talk about that, but
Um,
I feel like maybe sometimes on some of these seasons,
yes. I can't say for sure, for a fact, that's what they do. I definitely heard some things like that. And I think that's why the All-Star season seemed to have caused a lot of like drama online and like I've heard things behind the scenes that I think that's kind of what I was referring to earlier when I
Okay.
thought that they were foreshadowing about Michelle and myself, is because in my mind, when we got, maybe not, let me backtrack, maybe not immediately, like maybe not before the show even starts. I think they know, like, okay, this handful of people, there's no friggin' way they would be the head chef in Vegas. Like certain people, like to me, Elise sticks out as like someone that like I wouldn't hire. Yes, she's talented as a chef, but I wouldn't hire her a high profile job like that. I think they kind of get towards the end, they know like, okay, this person's really good at doing on camera interviews, and this person's really good at speaking, and this person has really good creative ideas. And I think they kind of take all those things into consideration. Again, I'm guessing. This is what I
Yeah.
would do if I was a producer, and kind of be like, okay, let's have a general idea of who the top five could be and who Chef Ramsay actually wants to be working for him. So in my mind, I think that they knew that Michelle was going to be a candidate to be, could potentially be in the finale.
Yeah.
To me, and that's, and I thought that in season 14. Not that I thought that season 14 was a little more organic with the cast, but I think when Megan won that season, Chef Megan, and early on, she was just leaps and beyonds like above me, like in terms of like her skill set. She was so much more mature, and like she had her shit together, and she just was really talented and like super serious and focused. And I was like, oh, this girl's gonna win. Like I kind of could feel that. But I think for All Stars, they definitely had we're hypothesizing. I think they had an idea of who they might want to win, but I can't say for sure. I don't know for sure if that's,
Yeah.
but I agree. Something like that. Yeah.
Because because I think they were saying something about someone else was supposed to win on season 12, but they left, and then it caused, yeah, like a different final two, and there
Yeah.
was like a pre-recording of the final two or some like weird stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even hear that, but that's kind of how like I felt about All Star season, is when the final judging, or at least when it was Benjamin, Michelle, and me, and we were being judged on our like dishes that we had created. It was like a 4 or 5 course meal or something. Um, and then the deciding person for me was some like Caesar's executive that I've never met, that apparently doesn't even work there for Caesar's anymore. I heard some gossip about that. He doesn't even work there anymore. And like this person decided my fate in the competition, and I never met this person. And then that was it. And they were like, okay, you can join the rest of the cast. And then like I never got, like, you know how they have like those dramatic montages and like send-offs where like they recap the person's journey on Hell's
Yeah.
Kitchen and like say like great job, but like beat it. Yeah, I didn't get that. They kind of just were like, okay, join the rest of the people, and it was so awkward. And I was like, okay, it was just weird. It was weird, but who
That
knows?
is weird. I'm happy you said his name too. I'm not even gonna lie. I honestly forgot who I knew. Like I could picture him, but I could not. He wasn't that memorable to me. I couldn't
Yeah,
remember his name.
he wasn't. You're right.
I'm like, who? And I think he was the only one from the season. I think they throw some shade too when you guys were all coming in and he came
Mhm.
in and everyone was like, who is that?
Right. Again, super nice guy.
Yeah, I
Benjamin
bet.
was really nice. We got along. He just was just more, he just was like, I don't know what the word is, but yes, I even early on I was like, he's a nice guy, but like we need more. We're on TV. If this is
Yeah.
like real life and it was just a restaurant, maybe things would be different, but we're on a reality TV show, and like I did feel like it was, his personality wasn't as big as maybe it should have been, or he was, like you said, sometimes memorable, or not memorable, I should say, which sounds harsh, but I don't know, that's reality TV.
All that I can kind of hypothesize of what maybe happened was that they thought like Michelle and Benjamin would kind of like almost try harder against one another because they're not like friends, and they knew like you would be her first pick and right hand
Yeah.
person, and I
Mhm.
don't know, yeah, maybe.
And I knew that, I instantly knew that would happen. I was like, okay, she's obviously going to choose me first. It's going to be her and I, because like we're friends. And that's why I see it could go either way. It's like either they wanted to put us against each other because we were so close, and like, oh, battle of season 14, like they're best
Yeah.
friends. Let's see what happens. Or it was like he's going to help her win, kind of thing. So I mean, obviously, I'm happy with the outcome, because I'm not saying everything happens for a reason, because I don't know about all that, but I definitely think my life now, would it be the same if I had won and went to Vegas? Probably not. I'm happy with the way everything went, and I'm happy with the way like the show portrayed me, because I mean I was just myself, and no one made me say anything I didn't want to say, or there's no script. Everything was very real in the show. So with editing, I'm sure there's tons of drama and magic they do, but but in terms of like the contestants and how we acted, or how people were just that crazy and out of control. There was very big personalities. The casting team does a good job with like casting people, I think, too. And they knew who to put with one person. I know who to like cause up drama, I think.
Oh,
But
definitely. That just made me think of something with the All-Star season and how what was it? Michelle and Elise, they were kind of fighting a little bit, or well, a lot of it
a
in the
lot.
kitchen and stuff. And you would come out of nowhere and be like, Elise, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck
I did
up.
I did yell, tell her to shut up. I did feel kind of bad afterwards, but people don't realize it was like that was how she was the entire time we were there.
Yeah.
So granted, it was only 3 weeks, but every single day you're hearing someone yell and scream. That's how she was all the time. So towards the end, when we were done, like when I wasn't going to be in the finale, I was like, "Fuck this!" I was like, "Shut up!" I'm like, "You enough," but which I think was aggressive. Like it was a little maybe like I could have been nicer, but I had had enough of her. I just lost it because I was like, my time here on the show, like I felt no pressure being helping Michelle because I knew that I could do my job to help her win. I wasn't really worried at that point or nervous anymore. I was kind of like my guard was down and I was like, okay, like you gotta shut up. Like we gotta work and so we can all go home. The show's done. This is the last day or the last day of filming.
Yeah.
I did tell her to shut up. I did feel a little bad about that, but I didn't feel bad about sticking up for Michelle because there was numerous times that like she just would go in and everyone just like, it was, to me, the weirdest part was everyone kind of just was like twiddling their thumbs, like looking around, like ignoring it or just not saying anything. But for me, I can't live like that. Like I can't just ignore
Yeah.
people. And if someone's that like intrusive to my life or like being that annoying, I have to say something like, and Michelle's also my friend in the house. So I was like, I have to just stick up for her and at least like say my piece. And if Elise wants to keep going, then so be it. But I did feel like I just had to stick up for Michelle or say something because it was getting out of control. Like it was getting out of hand a lot of the times. And as you saw, I'm sure that she just kind of like goes nuts. So someone had to say something.
And yeah, I mean, they obviously probably didn't show all of the moments either.
Mhm.
Probably just a couple or a handful to
Right,
then. And
right.
yeah, I'm the same type of way where I'll kind of let things like come, like
Mhm.
hit me, hit me, hit me, and then eventually I just like explode. I lose
It
it because
really
I
takes
can't
so
take.
much. Yeah.
Yeah,
And whether that's like directly related to you or like someone you care about. And I told people, even if it was like a stranger and that was like, this person was like screaming at me, it just, sometimes you just don't, just no need for, there's just no need for it. And
yeah.
I don't know if she knew that going in and she was doing it for drama or if that's genuinely how she was, but the way she portrayed herself is like that the whole time we were there. Even down to like, she was crying in the finale of season 17 because she didn't win. And it was weird.
You reminded me of that when they like show the credits and she was just not having it.
Yeah, she was out of it. I don't know what was going on, but she was crying, and I was like, okay, like,
I think yeah, I mean personally if I wanted to play like this villain character on TV, I would definitely want to piss everyone off, make them quit the show, make scenes,
yeah.
get camera time.
That's probably. I mean, I think in the back of her head, she knew why she was casted, and yeah, she's talented, but I think she had her. I just think it was like she has a really big head. She was really confident in herself, which is great. But if you can't back it up, and then you also have all this like negativity with it, it's gonna bite you in the ass. And I was wondering when it was going to happen and when she would be eliminated because for sure thought it would have been earlier than it was, but I have to remember that we were on a TV show and it wasn't just based off skill.
Yeah.
Because any other kitchen or any other job in real life, she would be fired that instantly. Like you can't act like that at a job, and everyone knows that. But yeah, so that's why I think it's not necessarily real in that regard because
Oh yeah.
you can't get away with some of that stuff in real life.
And like you said earlier too, how producers they're wanting to cast
Mhm.
specific members and yeah, certain personalities. I think of Elise, Josh, Barbie,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
certain people or
Mhm.
yeah, you like you said, like they wouldn't normally make it really far in a show like that, but
Right.
because they have those interesting, entertaining personalities.
Yes. They're, and that's the thing I will give everyone credit that was on the show is everyone was very interesting from all walks of life and everyone had their own personalities and some meshed and some didn't, but
Yeah.
it was fun overall. I had fun on that season. So
Yeah, I knew when, at least with the All-Star seasons, like before everyone was even coming in, I knew like seeing certain people like you come in or I think Jennifer was one because I had
Mhm.
seen, yeah, I'd seen season, I think they're from 8 or 9. I can't remember.
Yes, there was
Maybe.
a few of them from that season. It was like Jennifer, Robin, Elise, and Christina, but she was the sous chef, so that was a kind of
Okay.
weird dynamic. And Dana as well.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. So, yeah, like I knew though, like you would see you guys coming in. I knew, I was like, oh, it's gonna kind of be like, I think what's the show, The Challenge or something, where they have like the
yes,
challenge rivals. Like I knew they were gonna bring
yes.
in people that would clash.
I was one, yeah, and when I found out that the season after ours, which I didn't end up watching the full thing, but it was like rookies versus all stars. I think our season was kind of like the rivals.
Yeah.
That's how they made it like seem or pair us up. So I think that's what they were trying to do with it, but I don't know.
I don't know either. I just thought about Millie too. I thought he was really cool on
It
TV. I
is.
just thought
Oh,
about him.
I love him. I like. I would say from like my season 14, I still talk to a lot of people in that
Oh,
season,
good.
and then everyone that came, even Josh. Like I'm friends with him on social media, but we don't like contact regularly. But I have no any issue or ill will towards Josh or Elise or Barbie. I mean, well, Barbie and I got along. She just didn't get along with everyone else. But um, yeah, I mean, again, that's we were fighting because it's because we were living together and we were on top of each other all day, every day. Um, so it's a lot to. I mean, if you've ever lived with or worked with someone and then you had to like go to the job with them, it's
Oh,
like,
definitely.
yeah. So but I mean, overall, I think I still genuinely care for all those people. They're all really cool, and like you said, Millie's awesome. People I was really close with, obviously, I think are really cool, but they're really nice. But I generally still like talk to people on social media and people that I necessarily didn't talk to a lot in the show. It's nice to kind of see them what they're doing now, and everyone seems to be doing really well. So it's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, life's just too short to
Mhm.
hold on to
Great,
little things, especially
great.
when it was, yeah, for entertainment
Mhm.
purposes. And
Yeah, and I can talk about it now, like and like joke about it, but like I really don't have any ill feelings towards Josh or Elise. I think
oh,
they're
good.
yeah. Elise is doing great. She just had a baby. She's married,
Oh,
so
wow.
she's living the dream. I think Josh is acting. I don't know. Again, I'm not that well versed in their lives, but from what I see, it seems like everyone's happy.
I
So that's
was
good.
say, like you're happy for them, but yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's not like you guys are, yeah,
No, we're not
chilling
gonna like
talk.
hang out. Yeah, Elise and I are gonna hang out, but like I happy for her that she's doing well and she's a mom. So that's she seems like she's happy.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned quickly that you
Mhm.
were married and have a kid. So yeah,
Yep.
what is some things, I was gonna say everything. You don't have to tell me everything going on in your life. What are some things that are going on today in your life?
The biggest one is my daughter. I've always wanted to be a dad, whether I was in a relationship, married or not. I always knew that that was something that I wanted. Um, and so when I started dating my husband, we got engaged and then we got married and we moved kind of fast. We ended up buying a house together. And the general kind of progression of like life is that, I had expressed that I had wanted children and he was like open to it. So we kind of started slowly having that conversation of like what that would look like. Because there are a few different options, but like IVF and stuff like that are just so expensive. We looked into that and I just don't have that kind of money just like lying around. I didn't win the show, so I don't have that kind of money lying around. And I won maybe, but so we decided to go the foster to adopt route, which is like you foster a child, and then if they're available for adoption, you would get like the first chance to adopt them or start that whole process. So we got her at 6 days old from the hospital in Boston, and then we've had her ever since, and she's now 3. So that worked out, and she's officially ours. So we fostered her for 2 years, and then once she became available for adoption, we finalized that process within a year, or less than a year, I should say. And now she's 3, so she's taking up a lot of my time. I also own a catering company called Kitchen IL Catering and Events, and we're based out of Amesbury, but we've done events kind of like all over New England. A lot of them are weddings, but some are like small, like dinner parties in your house too, which I think are really fun because you can really concentrate on the food and like plating. And so, yes, I've been really busy with my catering company, and my child keeps me very busy.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I know, and I think that's how I ended up connecting with you. I was supposed to be working, but I saw your live instead
Mhm.
on my lunch break, and oh my God, yeah, she's so cute.
Yes. Oh, she's I'm like, we would talked about having another child or starting that process again, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to jinx it. Like and everyone says their kid's perfect, and she's not biologically my child. But I really mean it. Like she's just generally very sweet, cute, nice, like loving little child. So like, I'm like she's just perfect. I don't want to ruin it and have another kid, but we're thinking about potentially starting the process again of like opening up our house and start potentially fostering another child. But yeah, she's the best. We actually went to the Children's Museum in Boston this morning, which was fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I forgot if you mentioned this. Were you with your husband before you went on the shows?
Season 14, we were together, but we were just dating, and we had just moved into an apartment together. And he told me that he was going to try and propose to me on TV. And I was like, if you would propose to me on TV after like 4 months of dating, I would have had serious questions. He was like, I'm just joking. I'm like, right. So
We'll never know.
yeah, exactly. We lived together. And a quick funny story about that is when I was on season 14, they asked you like, if you were to make it a certain point, who would you want to bring? And I said my mother and my husband that time in on All Stars. And came in 5th on season 14. So they called them the night before they were supposed to leave. Like their bags were packed. They had plane tickets, like everything. They were ready to go to fly out to see me because I would have been in the final 4 or whatever. And that night I got eliminated, and they called them at like midnight. And their flight was at like 8 a.m. And they were like, hi, we went in a different direction, just so you know, AKA got eliminated. So they couldn't come out. So I was so happy that the second on All Stars, they actually got to come out. So, because they gave me grief about that. They're like, you were ready to go. I'm like, fuck you guys. I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't make the decision. They canned me. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, that's not your fault. That's so messed up.
I know, it's messed up. My mom was like, what the hell? I'm like, I'm sorry.
And the way that worded that, we went a different direction. Like, were you supposed to make it farther? Was everything rigged?
I know. That's a weird, and that's my husband was like, that's what they said. I'm like, that's what they told you. I'm like, they couldn't have just said he got eliminated. Like, you obviously know what happened. I got eliminated. It's just funny. But yeah. So they got to come out, which was nice.
Yeah, that is nice. Yeah, are there any, because I know you mentioned the catering business, maybe you'd want to share that. Like, are there any social medias or business websites that you'd like to share for the audience to follow you on?
Yeah. So on Instagram for my catering business, it's at Kitchen to Aisle Catering. And that's also linked in my Instagram, which is Chef Nick Peters Bond. And then my Facebook is it's at Nicholas Peters Bond. Yeah, so those are the two that I mainly use, especially Instagram. I feel like it's the one. I tried to like do TikTok. It's just too much time in my life. I can't. Social media is like a part-time job.
Oh yeah.
Or I feel like constantly posting and stuff. So I'm like, yeah. So Instagram and Facebook are the two.
Okay, cool. Yeah, trust me, it is. It feels like another, I'm actually probably after we talk, I'm working on a whole like posting social media schedule so that I'm always like, just posting and staying relevant.
I know. And that's the problem is like sometimes my life, I'm just like, I have my catering company, my child, I'm married. I also like work at my friend's butcher shop part-time. So I'm like constantly doing stuff. I'm like, oh, I guess I could post that. I guess I could be posting something, but I'm like, it's real life. I have real life problems.
Serious. And you're right about TikTok. It's very time consuming. However, it's a whole, like at first I wasn't really taking it seriously, but it is really a whole nother audience. I had something blow up recently to where I'm like, oh, cool. So now it's a whole nother,
And now that's another thing you're going to post on now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's huge. And then when they kept saying it was going to go away, I was surprised when there was going to be like shut down or whatever.
The ban, yeah.
But it hasn't slowed down, and I see people like locally who are like blowing up on TikTok, which I think is amazing. It's a really cool platform. But I mean, a 15-second video, I have to cook a whole dish to like cut it into 15 seconds. I'm like, what the hell?
No, seriously. I know you'd have to like, chop it up in all the little parts when the meal probably takes like 5 to 10.
Right. Editing a 15-second clip. I don't know how to do that. Like,
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem.
Good luck with the book.
Sorry, what was that?
Good luck with your book.
Thank you. I'm only on chapter 9. I have like 30 something chapters. I gotta get together. I just can't be lazy.
That's awesome.
But I want to thank today's sponsor, for the episode. I want to thank each and every one of you guys out there for watching, listening, whatever you do on whatever streaming service. I want to thank my friend Zapphire for doing the intro and outro music for season's 2 episodes. And I want to thank our new producer for episodes, Monica Leigh. If you'd like to become a producer or executive producer, you can go on my Patreon. That link will be in the description below. Nick's links will also be in the description below. And I hope you guys have a super special, awesome day, and bye.